Almost anything narrated by David Attenborough is always going to be fascinating and inspiring. However, there was one moment from the series Dynasties in particular that stuck with me. In it, an alpha chimpanzee called David is starting to lose his authority as he gets older. Eventually, he is overthrown in a harrowing scene, assaulted by a gang of younger chimps that bite and strike him and leave him for dead. Even the camera crew find this upsetting, but like Uatu, they cannot interfere. They continue to film him as he lies on the ground, motionless, for days. But amazingly, David starts to move again, and slowly he regains his strength. In fact, he regains his strength enough that he's able to return to his group and retake the throne by force. I'm not sure to what extent these stories are fabricated, but there is clearly some truth here. And what really struck me is the way in which David was able to recover his strength. I can't imagine a human being being left for dead in the wilderness and recovering to such an extent. For many of us, a twisted ankle is a life sentence. Issues like bad shoulders or knees can end up haunting us for years or even decades. In the wild, a limp like that would severely hamper our ability to hunt for food, procreate, and survive. Here in the 21st century, tennis elbow or shoulder impingement can hamper our training to the point that we lose all gains and possibly even our enthusiasm for training at all. Moreover, such issues can make regular movement painful and difficult. But that's precisely the difference. David doesn't have the option to take it easy. He doesn't have any means to elevate his injuries or apply ice. He just had to get on with it. If you have a bad knee, so you completely stop using your knee, what message do you think you're sending to your body? Simple, that you don't need to use that knee, and so it's not worth the resources for your body to repair it. Not only that, but you will invite a cascade of compensatory movement patterns and imbalances that can lead to further issues down the line. Counterintuitively, the best way to heal is actually to keep training, but you need to be smart about it. And at the same time, this will help to mitigate any loss of gains. In fact, you might just find you improve in ways you didn't even expect. So how do you train smart when injured? Well, not to brag, but I get injured all the time. Mostly because filming the Bioneer often means pushing myself to get a shot, even when my body is saying stop. Also, I fall off stuff. Speaking with my wife the last time she was disinfecting my back like a scene from Lethal Weapon, I told her that I'd learned an important lesson from this latest fall. That I can heal from anything, and I was now ready to throw caution entirely to the wind.
I will never die.
That's not precisely what I think she was hoping to hear. Definitely be cautious, people. But there is a strategy to continue training safely through injury, and I plan on sharing that here. Let's start with what you don't do, and that is to move through pain. If a particular range of motion causes you pain, you should simply stop using that range of motion. Pain is your body's warning signal, and if you don't heed it, you will do more damage in the long run. If you imagine a muscle tear like fraying on an elastic band, it certainly wouldn't be a good idea to then keep stretching said band to the point of further fraying, or even snapping. It's also important that you visit a doctor or someone who knows what they're talking about and can inspect you in person. A doctor can advise on the cause of pain, and in some cases there might be specific treatments that you need to follow and couldn't have known about. But that's not to say that you shouldn't move the affected area at all if you have a regular training injury. In fact, moving the affected area is the best way to get blood flowing to said area and to encourage healing. This increased blood flow will send nutrients and building blocks that are necessary for tissue repair. This occurs in the short term, but also in the long term it can even lead to an increase in capillary to muscle ratio. That means permanently more blood supply to that region. And another way to think about a muscle tear is as being similar to the kind of muscle damage caused by regular training, but to the point of being maladaptive. If you have delayed onset muscle soreness or DOMS from regular training, one of the best ways to combat this is by training the same area with light weights and high repetitions the very next day. The same is true for some types of injury, as long as you move through a range of motion that doesn't cause you any additional pain. And this is why a lot of studies now suggest that icing and elevating the injury, as has been recommended for the longest time, can actually slow down recovery and even prevent full recovery. Inflammation is not the enemy. Normal inflammation is actually critical for recovery. Inflammation fights infections via neutrophils, and it kickstarts the healing process by bringing fibroblasts to produce collagen, and it increases growth hormone production. In fact, the use of anti-inflammatory drugs may even inhibit hypertrophy following a normal workout. don't take aspirin for those DOMs. And studies now suggest that icing wounds specifically will not only slow down healing, but potentially even reduce the total amount of recovery. This is still a controversial point and there are some mixed studies, but it makes a lot of intuitive sense. Inflammation is a natural response of the body, and so of course it has a useful purpose. It is not your enemy. Walking and other forms of gentle cardio can also be similarly beneficial by encouraging blood flow around the entire body. So the takeaway at this point is to try training with very light weight or even no weights at all, and a smaller range of motion that is pain-free. You can also use slower movements. Over time you should strengthen the affected area and be able to gradually increase the weight and return to normal movement, but take it slowly. You can also try blood flow restriction training. That is the correct application for this particular protocol, and it allows you to increase blood in the target area even more so, while getting more hypertrophy with lighter weights. Studies show that this can indeed accelerate recovery. Either way, don't completely stop all movement. There are more things you can do during your downtime too. For injuries affecting one limb, it's important to continue training the opposite limb. This might seem like a recipe for imbalance, but fortunately that's not the case thanks to something called the cross-education effect. Simply, this shows that training one limb will promote strength gains in the contralateral limb, that's the opposite limb, even when that limb isn't being trained directly. This is due to the fact that you're still training the skill and building the neural pathways, and these can be referenced when moving the opposite limb. This won't necessarily promote hypertrophy, but you'll be able to regain that lost size quicker by maintaining some of your strength. Of course, you can also use this time to focus on other areas of your training. For example, there's no reason not to continue training your upper body if you have an injured leg. You might though find it's useful to use resistance machines or bands and cables if you struggle with picking up heavy weights. Better yet, train things that you otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to train, or the inclination. For example, you might benefit from taking this opportunity to work on your mobility, or to train your grip strength, or to work on cardio. We have a tendency to do a lot of what we're already really good at, so this is the prime time to work on those weak points. Now, rather than simply losing gains and moving backwards, you're just redirecting your energy. You're adding to your arsenal. The best part is that thanks to adaptations like increased myonuclei, better motor unit recruitment and stronger tendons, your weaker muscles will recover quickly and get to the same point they were at, much more quickly than they did the first time. In other words, once you recover, you'll be back to full strength, but now with that added mobility and grip strength. That's how you turn a setback into a win. And for athletes, whether you're a martial artist, a tracer, a footballer, you might find you're unable to practice the specific skills you need. Maybe you can't jump or throw or run, but you can still go back to basics and work on some foundational strength, or even take the time to train your brain and your visual attention. With all that said, I would also recommend against training too intensively in any capacity. Even if you're still able to train hard while avoiding the damaged area, it's still a good idea to scale things back just a little. You really don't have to stop, but it's wise just to go a little easier on yourself. The reason for this is simply that recovery itself is something of a stressor and is resource heavy. If you keep piling on more muscle damage and challenge onto your body, it'll need to share those resources between those new adaptations and the healing. And of course, sleep well, get lots of sunlight, and eat lots. So I hope you found this video useful and interesting, guys. If you like this sort of thing, you may enjoy my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training. There I take this same diverse approach to training to build strength, but also resilience, mobility, speed, cognitive function, and more. There's a link in the description. Alternatively, you could check out my print book, Functional Training and Beyond, which is an introduction and discussion around the whole subject of functional training. If you found this useful, then please leave a like and share it around. What are your tips for other people in a similar boat? Either way, thank you so much for watching this one, guys, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching and bye for now.